Hi, I'm Wendy garf-Lipp from United Neighbors. Welcome to a special edition of Inside Fall River. I'm delighted today to have three guests, some old friends and some new friends. With me today is Susan Jennings, who is the Director of the Office of Campus and Community Sustainability at UMass Dartmouth. In the middle, we have Stephanie Rearick. Welcome, Stephanie. She is the co-director of the Dane County Time Bank in Madison, Wisconsin, and the project coordinator for Time for the World. And Bob Bailey, a repeat visitor on our show,
Good to be here.
coordinator of the Southeastern Mass Time Exchange. Welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're all here today because we're going to talk a lot about time exchange. So let's start off with Stephanie. Tell us a little bit about Dane County. I understand that you have a 2,300 member time exchange.
Yes, we started off in 2005, October, so we're about to turn 8. We're very excited. And we view time banking as a great way that we can make visible all the great assets in our community, which is essentially the talents of the people in the community and what they're willing to do to help each other out. And we use that to build projects and do things to make our community into the place we want to live in.
Great. Now, Bob, you're the coordinator of the Southeastern Mass Time Exchange. Give us a little overview of what Time Exchange is and a little history of our Time Exchange.
Okay. Well, Time Exchange is I like to call it a cooperative in which people help each other out and get credit for it. For instance, I cut your grass for an hour. I get an hour's worth of credit in the time bank. And I can then ask anyone else in the Time Exchange to do an hour of work for me. So that's the basic idea. We started our Time Exchange we went officially online last December, so we're only 10 months old. We are the result of a grant that was written from United Neighbors, UMass Dartmouth, and the CEDC in New Bedford, the Community Economic Development Center. And we researched time banking. We drafted our policies and forms and so forth, went online in December, and after 10 months we now have over 170 members and we've exchanged over 500 hours.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about why time exchange. Why should we be time banking? And any of you can weigh in on this.
Well, for one, we've had a situation in this country for a long time where people have to work more and more in order to make ends meet. We tend to know our neighbors much less, and we've really lost that sort of sense of neighborliness and community, and time banking is really great for meeting each other and getting to know people that we would never get to know otherwise. I've met people of all different ages, races, abilities, people in different neighborhoods, and you meet because you have a common goal that you're working toward, or I might have a need that you can fill, and so we come together as equals, and it's just an excellent way to match unmet needs with unused resources, which is becoming more important every day, and then also just reweave our ability to take care of each other. So I've found.
So maybe you can give us some examples of people that have used the time exchange, what they've used it for, or organizations that might have used, or a project. So maybe you can give some examples from your background, from what you're doing in Madison.
Sure. Well, we have a singer, we have a seamstress, a carpenter, a cook, a tutor, a gardener, a teacher, a homeowner, an arborist, and that's just the start of it. We have a pretty diverse group of people, and on top of that, those are their most important or maybe their most noticeable interests, but people in the time exchange tend to do things that are way beyond their usual expertise. I'm a school teacher. I posted an offer to cut firewood and to tutor elementary level students. I got a request at one point to identify rocks and minerals from someone. So it's not just about what you are specifically offering, it's sort of, you have lots of capacities, and it's kind of interesting because you start discovering what you can offer and how you can help other people.
Full disclosure, I am a member of the Southeastern Mass Time Exchange, and one of my first exchanges was our wedding vows were destroyed in a fire we had in the house, and someone recalligraphied them for us. So not only was it something that we were able to get, but something that we got that really touched us, and that was important to us. Stephanie, you want to weigh in one of the best exchanges you know about, or something great that's going on?
One of the most important things to me is I feel that we really incarcerate too many people in this country, and we have too huge of a racial disparity in our criminal justice system. And so in Madison, we decided to replicate a project that we had learned about in Washington, D.C. We started a time bank youth court, and now we're operating in all 4 high schools. We started in one little neighborhood in Madison, and then we showed that we could really do good things with this. So kids who are getting into trouble, instead of getting a ticket and going in front of the judge, they come to a jury of their peers. Those kids will identify what they need in order to succeed, and also what would appeal to their strengths and interests. So sometimes they'll take a nonviolent communication class, or anger management, or employment skills, but then they also will get sentenced to things that help get them on a better path. So one young woman had to take drum lessons. Some kids go to the Center for Dance and Movement Therapy that's part of the time bank. One had to meet with a massage therapist because that's the career she wanted to go into. And time bank members are helping them fulfill that part of their sentence. So as they're carrying that out, they're really getting to know more people in the neighborhood. We're rebuilding that capacity of the neighborhood to pay attention to what's going on with kids and meet their needs, and rebuild all the things that really keep kids successful, which are good social contacts and economic, educational, recreational opportunities. So we've taken that kind of model where we take one issue and use the time bank to create the resources for it. And we've done it in lots of different ways. So a yoga teacher decided that she wanted to help us create a wellness project. So now she does monthly meals and workshops, and is building a medical transportation project and working toward a very comprehensive healthcare co-op. So it's really a way that you can recognize what needs to be done in your community and hire your friends and neighbors to really accomplish that work. So instead of waiting for grants and waiting for permission or waiting for an organization to tell us what to do or come and do it for us, we do it ourselves, and we use our time and talents as the way that we pool our resources to make it happen. So for me, that's the most exciting thing, is using time banking to transform our communities into what we want them to be.
And I think one of the things that attracted me to it is the idea that even if you don't think you have a long list of talents, you can mentor. You can be a companion to someone. You can offer them a ride. You can read to them. So you discover that you have a lot of hidden talents that might not be the things that you would put on your resume. So Susan, you're here from UMass, from the Office of Sustainability.
Yes.
Tell us about the role UMass is playing and why the Office of Sustainability is supporting this project.
Okay, so we were interested in time exchange through our Regional Council on Sustainability, which is a partnership between our office and SERPID, the Regional Planning Agency. Part of the council's focus now is on food security, energy security, and on economic development. And we see the time exchange as being a way to forward all three of those. So we wrote a grant a few years ago, as Bob mentioned, and were awarded 2 AmeriCorps Vistas. Bob has been with us. We're grateful that Bob has been with us for a little over a year, and we have another AmeriCorps Vista now, Jocelyn Feliciano, who's out of New Bedford. And we are very excited about the time exchange, both from the personal level, how people who are not able to participate for one reason or another in the traditional economy, or marginalized somehow in the traditional economy, it provides another way for people to participate on all sorts of levels. We're also interested on the student level. Bob's been working with UMass Dartmouth students. The time exchange is a great way for students to get things on their resume. It's a great way for them to be involved in the UMass Dartmouth community and then also the broader community. So that's very exciting.
So how can we use Time Bank to get a jump start on projects that we want to see happen?
Well, one of the reasons that Stephanie is here, she's kindly come to visit us. We're having an event at the university this afternoon where we're going to pick her brains about the kinds of wonderful things she's done in Dane County, Wisconsin. A couple things that we have interest in are the youth court. We're meeting with the judge and probation officers at the New Bedford Juvenile Court tomorrow to speak with them about developing a youth court, which we're excited about. Another interest of ours is connecting the time exchange to help the gleaning project that we were speaking about before the show, to help connect up community gardens and farms with food pantries and other people who are in need of food.
Explain what gleaning is.
So gleaning is the process of using food that might otherwise become compost or otherwise become wasted. So there's an awful lot of food in people's gardens. I know I have some food rotting in my garden right now.
There's only so many zucchinis you can eat in a year, right?
Farms are the same, and grocery store shelves, there's food, as we were discussing, that is wasted. Enormous amount of food is wasted. 40% of the food in the U.S. is wasted. So enormous amount of food goes to waste, goes in the garbage can for one reason or another. And we see the time exchange as a way to help the gleaning or figuring out how to get some of this food into onto people's tables instead.
There's a long history of gleaning. It comes actually biblically from when farmers were mandated to leave the corners of their fields untouched so people who did not have could come and get. And that whole idea of the community taking responsibility for those that are marginalized is one of the things I hear over and over and over again. So would one of you like to expand a little bit on that?
The time exchange for helping people that are at a disadvantage, either economically or socially or whatever, is all about community. And so helping people make connections with those that can help them out and give them an opportunity to be useful and valuable to the community is the key to what the time exchange does. And not, to me, it's the most valuable aspect of it. It allows people to really be a part of the most important thing, which is the community of people helping each other.
Terrific, terrific. So tell me a little bit about, we're coming into a time where we're beginning to feel our society is more and more broken. Economically, we're more and more broken. So where do you see the time bank, the time exchange, helping to elevate us and lift us out of this poor economic world that we're in?
Well, one thing is when people end up unemployed or underemployed or in extreme poverty, or if people are in the human service system, or if they've gotten a mental health diagnosis, people tend to really start internalizing that and start identifying themselves by what they don't have and by what they need, and the system tends to identify them that way and sort of reward needs and punish people for getting a leg up at times. And time making is great for recognizing that everyone has something to offer and everyone is valuable. And I think just the internal, the emotional aspect of feeling needed and feeling valued is huge. So in our time bank, some of the members who've really thrived in the time bank are members who have had mental illness, who are suddenly having an opportunity to give a lot and really make new social connections and really be valued and needed. And then another aspect is just that we're coming together as equals in an economy, which is quite different. It feels very different for everybody. And but it also feels really natural when people start to engage. So we see a lot of times just people really shift in how they view the value that they have and the value that other people in their community have. So the getting to know each other part is huge, but then also having an opportunity to really build your skills and build your social connections. So people use it to build their resume and build their number of references they have for a job. Early in our time bank, someone really needed help. He wanted to become a carpenter, and he had failed the geometry part of his aptitude test. So he got in touch with a math tutor at the beginning of the time bank and then did great on the test and became a carpenter. And now he's sharing his carpentry skills with us. We're having an energy project where we're working toward being able to weatherize buildings in a low-income neighborhood. And so he's going to help teach other people in the neighborhood carpentry skills so they can start to engage more. So we'll increase the energy efficiency in that neighborhood and really do a service to the world and to the people who live there, saving money, and at the same time really build the skills and employability and job opportunities, and hopefully create some cooperatively owned businesses there where people can generate their own work and really build their own skills within the neighborhood. So that's a way that you can use time banking to kind of bootstrap in a neighborhood, identify the skills that you have, help identify the gaps, and then fill those gaps and lift up the whole community at the same time.
And everyone's time in the time bank is equal?
Yes. 1 hour per hour, you don't put a price on it, there's no dollar amount, and that's something that's really beautiful. And a lot of times you'll get such a variety of services. I have someone shop for me, which is something I would never think or be able to hire someone to do. I've also had pictures framed, which is too expensive for me to afford. So a lot of times you get such a wide variety of services. It's no point putting a price on it, and it's just a different sense of value. I teach piano lessons to my friends' kids a lot of times, and what I would like to charge for having to be home at the same time every week is like $50 an hour. What I want to charge them because they're friends is more like $5 an hour, and it's just so much easier to just do an hour for an hour of lessons. And a lot of times the kid will pay the hour for their lesson, and then it's a whole different dynamic when they have to go earn their lesson. They tend to value things more.
It must be a great boost for someone who finds themselves, you know, unemployed, maybe laid off, that their time is valued, even if it's not the big society that's telling them that their time is valued. The community is telling them their time is valuable. And I think that is just a terrific way to look at life. So resiliency, sustainability, this is all part of the Time Bank. How do we build the resiliency here? And how does the Time Bank address resiliency?
Oh, I think all the things that Stephanie just said, it helps build resiliency. I look at it really as a reweaving the web that has been broken, and I feel that where we are, we're obviously, you know, far away right now from where Dane County is. We're really hopeful that our time exchange will build from both individuals and projects and community organizations. But I think the hope is that as things do get more difficult for people, that this sort of rises at the same time, that people are realizing that they need support that they're not able to provide through or to find through traditional means. And the other thing, just in terms of community, I feel that if people are in conversation with each other, if people are working toward the betterment of community, it's far less likely that they're going to become despondent over changes in their lives. So that all builds sort of the community emotional resiliency as well as the physical resiliency and again, the food security, energy security.
Growing up in the 50s, a child of the 50s, there was a lot of emphasis put on being self-reliant. Don't ask anybody else for help. So this is really a shift in the paradigm of the way we look at things. So how do we bring about that shift, and how do we get people to buy into the fact that it's okay to ask for help?
Well, one thing, oh, I'm sorry.
I think that the key is giving people an opportunity to meet each other, make new friends, discover what you need and what you can have to offer. When we've only been around for 10 months, and yet the most successful part of what happens is when we have a potluck and half a dozen or 15 or 20 people show up, and all we do is we go around the room and we say what we have to offer and what we could use, and before we've finished going around the table, people are saying, well, I could use that, well, I could use that, oh, do you need this? And there was exchanges just happening. It even happened at our smallest potluck last week when we had 5 people, and there were at least 4 exchanges that got established in those 5 people meeting. So this is what it's about. It's about people reconnecting with each other, making friends. When people say, oh, you know, I want to join the time exchange, but is this rule or that rule? And I say, don't worry about the rules. It's not about the people. It's not about the rules. It's about the people. The time exchange is about bringing people together. It's about reweaving, as Susan said, that fabric of the community that has become frayed because of our over-reliance on institutions and agencies that take some of the responsibility that we should have kept for ourselves. You know, we let our schools take too many, and our courts and our police departments take too many of the decisions about how we parent. We take some of the laws take over how we decide what to eat and how we eat and when we eat and so forth. And so we're losing a lot of this responsibility, and we're becoming isolated. The technology has isolated us, and I think it's kind of ironic that the time exchange is using technology, a computer-based exchange system basically, to fight that, because we're using the computer to bring people together instead of separate them.
Right. And certainly that would be the ideal way for us to look at technology. I don't think as we move forward with technological advances that we want to be separate from people. All I think about when you first came and started talking about the time exchange, all I could think about was the Amish barn raising, when the entire community gets together to accomplish one specific goal that benefits only one family. But the reality is that the benefit is more than for one family, because if you participate, then you know that when you need, somebody is there for you. And that shift in the way we look at our community, you know, you're always talking about neighbors. Okay, you always have this wonderful thing to talk about neighbors and potluck. And when I thought about it, I live in a neighborhood for 35 years. I don't know everyone in my neighborhood. And I think that that's probably what a lot of people in our society have now as well. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about what's happening beyond the U.S. and across the U.S. There's more time exchange than just here and in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, there are hundreds around the country, and then in 40 countries around the world. And in fact, I get a wonderful opportunity next week to go visit one in Turkey. There's it's over 10,000 member time bank that's based out of Istanbul. So it's happening everywhere. It happens in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's applied. I'm going to be working with the wonderful Kathy Perlow in Allentown, Pennsylvania. She runs a hospital-based time bank that is geared toward helping patients with their aftercare and helping them get to medical appointments and meet their medical needs. So their youth court applications, their energy applications. In West Virginia, they're using time banking to assemble and install solar panels, and then they've created a funding mechanism where they use the energy savings to keep funding the project and perpetuating it. So all over the place, there's really amazing stuff happening, and we just try to take bits and pieces and apply it to what we do. And that's the beauty of it, is it's very flexible. Any community can focus however you want to with it.
So we've heard about communities that have alternative currency, like Burlington Bucks, or right here in Massachusetts in the Berkshires. So how does that play into this kind of way of thinking?
Oh yeah, so time banking is a form of currency because it's a way to do resource flow and exchange. And then there are other kinds that are more like money, where it'll have a dollar equivalent and you use pricing of goods. And I think they fit together as part of an ecosystem. And for me, time banking is really important because it's the one thing I've found that really can value activities and people who tend to be marginalized by the market economy and left out of the market economy. And I think it's essential to really build that piece. But coming up in Madison, we're going to be connecting with other forms of business-to-business mutual credit, where you exchange credits like the time bank, but it has a dollar equivalent, so you pay taxes on it and you can start exchanging more sort of hard goods. And we're also going to connect with a cooperative saving and lending and investment model, so we can fund the real sort of monetary resources that you can only use money for in projects. So I think the key is fitting the pieces together wisely. They each fill a different function, and our economy has a lot of different functions, and I think we've really made a mistake using one tool to fill all these different functions, because that one tool of dollars is scarce, and it's a competitive, puts you in a competitive system. And I think we really shouldn't have to compete to be sure that we're taken care of when we're sick or when we become disabled, and we shouldn't have to compete to be sure that we have childcare and housing at a basic level. So I think it's really important to have abundant things like time banking. We consider to be very infinitely abundant as caregiving and creativity and civic engagement and community building, and use abundant things to exchange abundant things, and use the scarce thing to exchange the scarce things. So that's what we're working on doing now, is really piecing it together wisely and seeing how much farther we can make it go by connecting the pieces.
So Bob, if people wanted to join the Southeastern Time Exchange, how do they go about doing that?
Well, it's a very simple process. They go online to our website, which is exchangetime.org. There's a link at the top that says join. You fill out your name, address, phone number, email address, and a couple of other bits of information, not a lot. Send that off, and then we put it into the system, and then, and here's the most important part, we meet with you. We sit down at a coffee shop, or we have a group orientation, and we get to meet you face to face and show you how the website works. We do have you sign a release form, and then we go back and activate your membership, and from there on, you can go back to the website, log in, and examine all of the offers and requests that people have posted, and you can post in your own offers and requests, and that's how it gets started. After that, we hope that you join us at some of the potlucks and share some of the things that you have.
What happens if you're not English speaking?
Oh, good question. We do have some brochures that we've started to put out in Spanish. We have my colleague Jocelyn is Spanish speaking. The national time, the software that we use is called Our World's, it's called Time and Talents, and it's put out by an organization called Our World, based in Portland, Maine. They are actually working on a complete Spanish version of their whole software system, and that should be coming out, I don't know, pretty soon.
But if someone who did not speak English wants to join now, can Jocelyn help navigate them through the system?
Absolutely.
So they could just call one of the numbers that's scrolling below and they can get hooked up.
And when you don't, if you're not a computer person, we can accommodate that.
That was my next question.
And most of the ways that we accommodate these kinds of limitations is by asking people to find a buddy. Find someone that you know that's in the time exchange or would like to join the time exchange that could help you, because it's all about the people.
So here's the difficult question. Lots of people look at things like this and they say, oh, Wendy, come on, the 60s are over. Stop being so hippy-dippy. How does this come into the mainstream way of looking at things? Because clearly it started out of the mainstream, but the groundswell that I'm hearing in Madison, Wisconsin, and the other places you mentioned, clearly it's becoming more mainstream. So how do we change the way people feel about it?
You know, I really feel like when people engage, it feels pretty natural to them. And because most societies throughout time and space have operated by helping each other and sharing, and we're in a very unusual situation, and the situation we have with the competition and the decimation of our communities is pretty recent, and it's pretty small compared to the rest of human history. So I think it's an easier sell than we might think, and a lot of times it is. One person comes in because they need a ride to the doctor, and that's the only way they can get it. And then it sort of opens their eyes to all the other things that could happen in their community.
I think it's right. Just getting started. I've had some exchanges, and I did them under duress because I'm very busy, and I didn't want. It just felt like I don't know if I want to do this, but I was really shocked at how much I appreciated the work that was done for me, or things that were done for me, that in a way that I don't know that I would have if I had just, because there's a distance I think that happens when you write a check or give somebody cash. There's a distance, and it's a whole different matter somehow with a time exchange. So it was really it was enlightening for me, and I think that Stephanie's right. As soon as people get started, that it becomes very natural.
What we need is a shift of our mind perspective. We need to make a paradigm shift and start looking at people instead of looking at catalogs for what we need.
Okay, so we're coming to about a minute and a half left in our broadcast. So let's give the information one more time. If you want to join the time exchange, where do you go?
www.exchangetime.org.
And if you're not a computer person, where do you call?
You call 774-955-0551.
Great. And last words for the last minute we have. Stephanie, want to give us a good something to go out on?
Yeah, I just think it's a great thing to try. If you're in a community where you don't have access to this time exchange, you can start one up yourself, which is a fun thing to do, a great way to meet people. It's really enriched my life immensely, way more than I ever dreamed it could.
I would also encourage anybody who is part of a church or an organization that's interested in potentially having an organizational membership to also give us a call, because that's the next stage of our growth, is getting involved with organizations.
Terrific. Bob, last 10 seconds.
It's all about the people. It's not the organizations. Let's get together, and we'll get through this transition that's going to happen, and we're going to come out on the other side a whole lot better than we were before.
Excellent. So I think the message we hear is meet your neighbors, connect with them, try and exchange, become a member, and things will get better. Thank you very much. Delighted to have you. This is Wendy from Inside Fall River. Thanks for being with us.